Hey everybody, this is Keisha from Keisha and Company. I am so honored that you are allowing me to be a part of your day. I want you to know that your time as a caterpillar has expired. Your wings are ready, and we are going to empower you to live your best life now.
Welcome to the Keisha and Company television show where we broadcast live right here in the Hill City, Lynchburg, Virginia. I am so excited about my guest today and the topic that we'll be discussing, which will be mental health. Today I have Martha Brown with me, who is the co-founder of the Lighthouse right here in Lynchburg, Virginia. How are you, Martha?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
And we also have someone that's very special to me, Ghana Ramey, who has been in the mental health field for 5 years now. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
Wonderful. So I just want to dive right into this. Is that okay?
Good.
I want to first talk about the Lighthouse. The Lighthouse, and I have some literature that I do want everyone to know about the Lighthouse. It says the Lighthouse is a faith-based, nonprofit 501c ministry of FAR Foundation and a trauma-informed care organization serving communities since 2008. Our mission is to show love through Christ to others by serving in practical ways and provide a dignified environment for spiritual growth. I absolutely love that mission. Martha, what I want you to do is tell our viewers a little bit about the Lighthouse and how does it represent, or I guess, how does mental health come into play with the Lighthouse?
That's a great question. Thank you, first of all, for
You're
having
welcome.
me again. I always appreciate the opportunity to talk about the Lighthouse and the model that we provide to our community, because it's really a simple model that anybody can really exercise in their own community. And mental health is such a critical topic,
Yes.
and it's a household name today. And what we try to embrace is the opportunity to recognize people in trauma. Trauma-informed care is the only approach that we're going to have in order to be able to recognize opportunities to serve people holistically with relationship. At the end of the day, that's what sets us apart from some of the other stakeholders in the community that try to provide mental health services. They have to keep it clinical. And so we are different because we're on the front line.
Right.
And so we serve as a day shelter. So we invite people to come in while we're open during the day, and we offer tangible services: clothes, food, hygiene kits. We have an all-you-can-eat hot buffet lunch. We have a coffee bar with tea and hot chocolate as well. We have light pastries in the morning. So as long as there's a tangible reason for them to come and see us, then it gives us an opportunity to slide in there at the gathering table and say, "Hey, I'm Martha.
Yeah.
What's your name?" And when they recognize that they've actually been seen and we know them by their name, that's where the relationship and the friendship begins. And when we're able to then say, "What's going on?" It's not about what's wrong with you.
Right.
It's about what happened.
Yes.
And as they begin to share their story and their journey of what brought them ultimately to our doorstep, then we can really begin to unpack, unravel, and offer wraparound services that could really change the course of their life.
Yes, that is amazing. I have a question, both of you, if you can answer, starting with you, Ms. Ramey. Mental health, it affects the world as a whole. When we talk about mental health individually or collectively, where do you think it comes in at? Is it from our upbringing? Is it something that we're born with? Is it something that is an imbalance within our mind? Where does this mental health disease, I can call it, is it a disease?
Well, I think it varies depending on what it is that the person is dealing with.
Right,
In terms
right.
of, it could be bipolar, it could be anxiety, it could be depression. So a lot of times, the when you're dealing with depression, you're dealing with anxiety. A lot of times, because we as a people, we suppress a lot of things
Right.
over the years. There's
Yes.
been trauma that has happened in our lives, and we do a lot of suppressing a lot of things that have happened, whether you've been molested, whether you've been raped, whatever it may have been, abused. So what happens is, I always say in counseling that there's a reason why we act out the way we do. Behavior is telling a story.
Yes.
And a lot of times at the root of this, it's not being addressed.
Right.
So then a lot of these other things start to happen, bipolar, which is dealing with the brain disorder and things of that nature. So a lot of times it could be something that has happened over there, trauma that has happened, or it could be something that may be, something that you're born with. So it can
Right,
vary
right.
depending on I think every person, every individual, it's
Yes,
different. It
yes,
could be different.
Yes.
Yes.
And both of you all deal with mental health in a different setting. You at the Lighthouse, of course.
Mhm.
You as a counselor and the first lady of a church. So it's a lot of different personalities
Right.
that come, to play in your
Yes.
everyday life. How do you, as in your position where you're at, and you where you are, how do you help these people, and what can you give them to, can you be cured from your mental health, or is it just a treatment plan? You know?
Well, I think you're talking to two women of faith.
Yes,
Yes.
that's
and
true.
so I am a woman that believes in the power of prayer.
Yes.
Mhm.
And what I like to say is, I have not just seen it, but I have felt it, I have touched it, and I have smelled it.
Yes.
Hopelessness and disparity. But I've also seen healing
Yes.
and hope restored, restoration,
Mhm.
and recovery. And when people are able to finally recognize, oh, so that's what's wrong with me. That's why I smoke. Maybe that's
Wow.
why I choose to drink. Maybe that's why I have these chronic illnesses. We talk about adversities that happen in childhood, and we talk about adverse childhood experiences, and they're called ACE scores.
Okay.
And there's 10 possible ACE scores that somebody could suffer from
Mhm.
as a child. And what I like to do when I teach this is I like to present it to the whole class collectively and say, think about not just yourself, but somebody you might know
Right.
that could have experienced these 10 possible traumatic events. It could be from abuse, emotional, sexual, or physical abuse. Neglect, it could be emotional or physical neglect. That alone right there can cause the muscle of the brain to not develop. Imagine, when you're working out, you're going to the gym, you're trying to build specific muscles in your body. And if you neglect those muscles, they die.
Right.
They don't get used.
Yes.
The brain is the same matter. So if you're a child and you're not getting the emotional security that you need, and
Yes.
you're suffering from neglect and you don't even know that you're suffering from it, the brain's not going to develop properly. And they have scientific evidence that proves. But the beauty of it is you can regrow that stuff.
Yes.
Neurogenesis, neuroscience, they've shown that the mind can be restored. And the Bible's very clear
Right.
that you can be renewed in the
Right.
spirit.
Right.
And I have seen it happen over the last 10 years. People become not just restored, but they're gaining wisdom and knowledge.
Wow.
And they're able to help other people come out of those circumstances. And they're used in their broken life
Right.
to help somebody else
Wow.
get out of their broken place.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yes.
Miss Ramey, you as a counselor, when someone comes to you, do they always know they have a mental issue, or is it something that you can actually tell from talking to them or from their behavior, and then you can actually let them know, this is what I see that's going on in you, inside of you?
Well, as a counselor, it kind of goes both ways. A lot of times, I'm giving that information
Right.
up front, so I know what I'm working with. Because I'm not a counselor that can really diagnose,
Right, right.
diagnose the situation, but I'm giving the information, the background on that particular student or person that I'm working with or dealing with, and a lot of times I'm able to work with them, able to talk to them. If it's a child, I like to talk with the parent as
Right,
well.
right.
If it's adult, that's a different story. I like to be able to address
Right.
the situation and say, listen, yes, I'm a woman of faith. I believe in God. I believe in all the scriptures and standing on the word of God.
Right.
But however, faith without works is dead.
Yes.
So I believe in programs such as the Lighthouse.
Yes.
I believe in saying to people, yes, we will sit here and we'll pray, especially in the church
Yes.
arena. I'll pray with you. We'll fast and pray. We'll do all the things that we need to do
Yes.
to to tap into God and,
Right.
and His powers,
Right.
because He's Almighty.
Right.
But however, I'm going to give you some tools
Yes.
to walk away with.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, and I'm going to give you some resources.
Yes.
I'm going to give you the lighthouse. I'm going to tell you about Horizon,
Right.
and the different types of tools that are out here in the community for you. Because I'm not the person to actually be able to give you all what you need, but I'm willing to take you to the water, take you
Right.
to the well,
Right.
and with hopes that you're going to drink that water.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I like to think that today we have more help for
Yes.
those that are suffering with mental illness, because I can remember years ago that it may have been something that you didn't even want to discuss because everybody classified you as crazy.
Right.
You know, oh, don't go see a counselor, you're crazy, or you have this going on. I don't think it's crazy to go and see a counselor or a therapist or to the lighthouse for help.
No, it's an opportunity to get that mind of yours
Right.
well,
Yes.
to improve yourself.
Mhm.
Especially there's a stigma in the Black community.
It is.
And that's where I think that's where I like to specialize in.
Right.
Because of the population of
Right,
people that I
right.
deal with, students that I deal with. So the African American community has been a stigma for years because we have been conditioned as a people
That's true.
that we are strong. There's nothing wrong with us. Oh, it's a phase. They'll come out of it. That boy or that child will come out of that. We've been conditioned. We've come from nothing and we know how to take something and make something.
Right.
So that's weak.
Right.
But over the years, what is happening is the people becoming more educated.
Right.
They're becoming more empowered, and they're learning through this younger generation who are now counselors and psychology
Mhm.
majors. They're bringing this information back home to their family and saying,
Right.
listen, this is real out here. And if you have bipolar or if you have anxiety, go to the lighthouse.
Right.
Go to Horizon.
Yes.
It's okay because you need to get well. We need you to be well as a
Right.
people, as my mother, as my father, as my son, as my daughter. I need you to get well.
Right.
And I'm willing to
Right.
go with you.
Right.
So in the African American community, what I could speak for is that we've come a long ways, and I think people like Oprah Winfrey, she has people look at her for 25 years. She opened up that platform on the television. It was like a counseling center. She talked about
That's
her
true.
own
That's true.
situations,
Right,
and she
right.
brought people on to talk about and say, you know what, it's okay
Right.
to seek counseling. It's
Right.
okay to get therapy.
Right.
So you can come out of that dark place that you're in,
Yes.
which is depression and
Yes.
anxiety and all
Yes.
those things
Yes.
that people suffer from.
Right.
Even Jesus had this. He had
Absolutely.
to. He healed.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's real.
Absolutely.
This is all real and very relevant
Right.
today.
Right. Right.
Yes.
At the lighthouse, when someone comes in and may have a mental health issue, how can you help them? What do you do? What tools do you give them?
Well, we have two counselors
Mhm.
in training that are working towards their masters and doing their internships with us. So we offer free counseling. Everything at the Lighthouse is free, by the way. And so as soon as they recognize, you know, there's somebody I would like to talk to about this now that I'm kind of digging into this
Right.
murky area,
Mhm.
then we have counselors that are available. Anytime that they're available, we make sure that there's an opportunity to talk. And usually
Right.
those sessions are at least an hour long. And we try to repeat them on a regular basis.
Yes.
So they have, you know, when they're coming, they're not just coming for tangible stuff. Now they're coming for something else that's going to be much more enriching for them
Right.
personally.
Right.
So that they can focus on getting well. I
Right.
like to say, don't take that oxygen mask off. Keep it on.
Yes.
Because you can't help somebody else
Right.
if you're not breathing well either.
Right. Oh, I like that. Can I use that?
Yes.
Are you gonna charge me or anything? Okay, so I can have it in my next book. Okay, I'll let them know. I'll give you credit. Okay. So with mental health, it can be hereditary, right? No? Is that still? Is it?
You know, I have seen people with ACE scores as high as 9
Right.
that are now in a professional environment today that have had the adversity to come out of all of those
Wow.
childhood traumatic events. And I think what happens is, as long as you've got somebody in your life that can serve as a mentor or a counselor or a trustworthy person, it only needs to be one.
Right.
And they will demonstrate what it means to have resilience.
Yes.
And as long as you have that as an example to follow, you really can't, especially children.
Right.
They are remarkable individuals that have
Mhm.
found the power of forgiveness and resilience to overcome stuff.
Wow.
But they really need a role model in their life. It could be a teacher, a counselor, a minister,
Yes.
a big brother, a big sister, a mentor, a role model. But it's faithfully and consistently showing up in that person's life, even when things are not so nice in their situations, the good, the bad, the ugly. They need to know that they're not in the storm alone.
Wow. I have some other questions for you all, but we got to take a commercial break. Will you stay with me for a moment?
Yes.
Great. We're going to take a commercial break and we will be right back. Don't turn the dial. Welcome back to Keisha and Company. And just like promised, Martha and Miss Ramey stayed with me. They did not run out the door. Thank y'all so much. Before we left for commercial break, I asked a question about it being mental health, if it was hereditary. You both kind of said, and you didn't answer for a moment. Why is that? Because statistically, I read that sometimes that it could be hereditary. Has it changed over the years? Have the doctors found something that, maybe have linked it to something else? Or do you just believe personally that maybe hereditary isn't, may not be where it comes from?
I think I have mixed feelings about that, personally speaking. A lot of times, if you have a child that's in the home with a mom or dad who's very depressed,
Right.
A mom or dad in the home that is, going through whatever they're going through, that's to me, and I guess it's the spiritual part that comes in. That spirit and stuff kind of falls over on those children growing up in that home.
Right.
And if no one in the family is getting any kind of help or any kind of or seeking any kind of advice, that child grows up with that type of spirit
Right.
in them. I know, if I'll speak from a personal standpoint.
Absolutely.
I have family members who have been diagnosed with bipolar, have been diagnosed with depression, but other people in the family have not been diagnosed with it. So that's why I think I'm a little bit on the fence about whether it's a genetic or not.
Right.
So I really don't want to answer that question and say, oh yes it is, because
Right.
we need to kind of look at what studies are showing. But I think a lot of times it could be, sometimes it could be environmental, like I just mentioned.
Sure.
It could be something that's in the home, something that the children are learned. It becomes a learned behavior.
Right.
It could be a combinations of things. I don't know what you're seeing in the clients that are coming into your agency.
I'm with you.
Okay.
I support what she's saying.
Right.
I agree the same way, because
Right.
only because I have been able to. I've not met one person that's come in to say, well, I have this diagnosis and I don't know where it came from.
Right.
It's I have this diagnosis because this is what happened to me.
Right.
And then they begin to share about one of those pieces of trauma that we recognize as one of those ACE scores that happened when they were a child. And oftentimes when they live in a home with addiction and mental illness, and or they've got absent parents, they're living life kind of as an orphan. So, they're dealing with acceptance and love and attachment issues. And they find attachment and love through people and not through their Heavenly Father.
Right.
And so we try to introduce them to a relationship with the Lord
Right.
that ultimately becomes their best healer and their best sense of hope.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that when they step out those doors, they got to go back into that store.
That's right.
I can't wave a magic wand and change their lifestyle, change their home, change their address, and change their friends. They have to make a choice to do that. But now they have a center of people and a community and a fellowship of encouragement that's finally giving them the structure that perhaps they didn't have when they needed it to make some of those good choices.
Right.
Or there were things stolen from them, such as safety,
Right.
such as a sense of security. When they have things taken from them, that's trauma. And they got to try to find a way to get it back or control
Absolutely.
their environment to protect themselves. So when you have a kid in school who's flipping over tables and creating fights with their with their classmates, you don't grab the kid and say, what is wrong with you?
Right.
And look for an opportunity to punish them and expel them. Instead, you say, what happened? What's happening?
Right. Right.
It's remarkable how many children are willing to just tell you what's going on if we just take the time to ask them, or if we recognize those red flags.
Absolutely.
And usually, like I mentioned earlier, whenever you see that type, because I've been a teacher in the classroom,
Right.
I'm a counselor, so I've seen it all. And usually in the classroom, if you see disruptive behavior, you're seeing oppositional, defiant, and all those things that you're seeing, that is telling you something. Something is going on there. Because they're not going to just come out and say, oh, daddy beat me last night or mom beat me last
Right.
night. It's through the behavior you begin to see these things.
Mhm.
And that's when you have to, that's just to me the cover, but you got to get to the root of it.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times it's because of trauma,
Right.
because of what they experience. I have a family member I can think of right now. She's way up in her 70s, still battling with bipolar, still clinically depressed. But because there was so much trauma in the home growing up,
Right.
with mom and
Right.
with an alcoholic
Right.
father,
Right.
who she watched her mom be beaten often every day, that was trauma in her life.
Yes. Yes.
So she, to this very day, at 78, is still battling
Oh my gosh.
clinically,
Wow.
with
Wow.
with that. So
Right.
I don't know if she wasn't born with that,
Right.
but that was the trauma that happened in her life
Absolutely.
as a child, and that she grew up seeing all
Absolutely.
her childhood life.
Right.
So
Right.
I don't. That's why I say I'm on the fence about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
What physical effects have you seen in people that mental health creates within them? What have you all seen?
What do you mean in terms of?
I've seen eating disorders.
Yes.
I've
Mhm.
seen self-cutting behavior.
Mm.
I've seen addiction quickly
Mhm.
happen. And as she just referenced her own family member, in all transparency, I have a cousin who was raised in a beautiful home,
Right.
and then at the age of 16, she was on social media and she got trafficked
Wow.
in Utah. And when her parents found out about it, she had already been exploited and was trapped in this situation that she didn't know how to get out of, until they were finally able to uncover what was happening to her.
Right.
They reported it to the police. They pressed charges against the men who did this to her, and then they tried to put her in counseling. And then within a few weeks, the counselor said, she has bipolar. Something's wrong. Yeah, there's just a mental health issue going on. It's not, and it wasn't, they didn't deal with pulling out the sword of the trauma and providing her long-term care that
Mhm.
she needed to address all
Right.
of that.
Right.
Instead, they just labeled her and started giving her medication
Wow.
to try to,
Yes. Cover.
get her, yeah,
Mhm.
it's a
Mhm.
Band-Aid.
Mhm. Mhm.
So they moved from Utah to Virginia, where I got to try to spend some time with my cousin. She tried to get enrolled in school. I requested, her parents, who are my first cousins, to, get her into a place, because by then she was already self-cutting, and it wasn't just, small little cuts here and there. It was all over her body.
Right.
And her younger siblings were beginning to see what she was doing to herself, and it was affecting the whole
Right.
family. It was like
Yes.
the whole family's now being inflicted. And I was trying to offer some resources and some places where she could go to get some help. But they thought, well, let's move again. So then they moved from Virginia to Florida, and every time you move, you're trying to change your environment, but you haven't dealt with the root cause of
the
this
issue.
trauma.
Yes.
And last month, she was found overdosed on the streets. I just talked to her at Christmas, and she was talking about going to college. She was talking about how she had finally finished high school, and I was so proud of the accomplishments that she had made, just the baby steps. And then, just like that, a few weeks later, she relapsed.
Wow.
And now all I can say is her pain is gone. But she never really got the proper help she needed.
Right.
And the symptoms that were physically showing all over her body, you can't see when somebody's sick up here.
Yes.
The mental illness is here.
Right. Right.
But there was, nobody was dealing with the other stuff that was causing all of the confusion in her head. And so medication was not fixing it. It was just drawing her to find more medication to numb the pain.
Right, right. And what you just said was, you said she's no longer in pain. And I don't think people realize how serious mental health is, because sometimes they really don't want to die. They just want to stop hurting,
Yeah. And they're crying out for
and they're
help.
crying out for
And a lot
help.
of times, those who are supporting them around them are in denial. So then they don't help them get the proper help.
Right. Or embarrassed.
You're embarrassed, or
Yeah.
it looks as a weakness. So we'll medicate her,
Yes.
but let's get her some counseling. Let's
Right.
get her some therapy.
Right.
Let's get her to a place, where she can talk this thing
Right,
through,
right.
and help her be able to brainstorm and work through, and how she can navigate through society.
Right.
Through all this pain, because it is
Absolutely.
what it is just pain. It's
Right.
a lot of pain that's been suppressed over the years, that needs to come up and needs to
Right.
come out, and then being connected with the right therapist or
Mhm,
right
mhm.
organization that's going to walk them through and have wraparound services
Absolutely.
to provide not only to them but to the family.
Right.
Because a lot of
It's
times
important.
the family, I'm big on, if you have a child or have someone in your family that is dealing with depression, anxiety, bipolar, me as a mom or as a sister, I need to know how to help you at
Absolutely.
home.
Absolutely.
Other than when you go behind those closed doors with your therapist,
Right.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
So I need to get connected with a support group.
Absolutely.
So I can
Absolutely.
continue to support you outside
Right.
of your therapy,
Right.
and support you in your home, support you on it, because I'm going to see you more so than the
Absolutely.
therapist
Absolutely.
and your psychologist and your
Right,
psychiatrist.
right.
I'm your mom, I'm your sister.
Right,
So I want to
right.
be able to say I'm here for you. So I need to be a month, because it is, like she mentioned earlier, it's devastating to the family
Absolutely.
when you have a child or when you have a family member that is dealing with mental illness.
Mhm,
It's devastating.
mhm. Wow.
Yeah.
When, regardless of age, child or adult,
Mhm.
when they have mental issues, we all know, we're all three women of faith, and we know who the ultimate healer is.
Yes.
Should they still, even with getting into church, even with being delivered and healed and set free, when you deal with mental issues, is it a lifelong, uh, should they continue to go to the doctor, even if they feel better? Should they continue to see a therapist? Should they continue to see a counselor? What should they continue doing if they feel, I'm done, I'm going to throw the medications away? Should they do that?
Well, first of all, they should not throw anything away until the doctor says it's
Right.
okay,
Right.
until they begin to wean them back.
Mm-hmm.
This is my own experience of a family member who felt, hey, schizophrenic. I'm good. I
Right.
feel good. I'm feeling better. I'm getting therapy. Took herself off. Then you know, she regressed. She went
Right.
backwards.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I think what you have to do is you got to encourage them that you don't take yourself off of medication.
Yes.
You need to. It's all under doctor's orders. It's all under what the doctor says. Yes, we can start weaning you back. We'll start slowly weaning
Mhm.
you back. But as they're weaning you back, there's therapy that needs to take place. There's
Right.
therapy, ongoing
Right.
therapy,
Right.
because it's like an addiction. It's like,
Absolutely.
you really need to continue to get the support you need as you're weaning back and as you're
Right.
becoming healed.
Right.
Thank God.
Right.
And I've seen people, like you mentioned earlier, being healed and set free and
Mhm.
delivered. I've seen it. But you also don't forget, faith without works is dead. So you do need that physical. You need, the
Absolutely.
natural.
Right.
You need that
Right.
support as well.
Right.
Because that's why God has given us all gifts and talents
Mhm.
anyway.
Yes.
That's why we have counselors. That's why we have doctors and
Yes.
lawyers.
Mhm.
We're not here for
Mhm.
nothing. We're here to help one another. So go and see that counselor.
Right.
That's why I'm gifted to do what I do. That's why she's gifted to do. It's not for us.
Right.
It's to help others.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You both work with the community, the Lighthouse, and counseling, and of course, working with within the church. How can we, as a community, help others? Not individuals, but how can we collectively help others in the mental health when they're dealing with anything mentally?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is, as a community, be trauma informed.
Mhm.
So if we're all trauma informed as a community, ultimately it makes us better caretakers.
Right.
In the long run, for life, we become better caretakers
Right.
because we're not so cynical and judgmental to somebody's behavior. We're a lot more sensitive and empathetic to maybe why they're in that behavior pattern. And our approach to them will be a lot more gentle
Mhm.
and compassionate and dignified.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
And also, too, I want to add on to what you just said, that in terms of the community, especially the church, now the churches are beginning to really embrace mental
That's true.
illness.
Mhm.
And what they're doing is they're beginning to really embrace it, and they're beginning to say, hey, we're going to have counselors here. We're going to have different workshops. We're going to have different presentations.
Right.
So they're beginning to open up their doors and allowing Lighthouse, allowing
Yes.
different organizations to come in, and because you've got people out there in the congregation, they love love the
Mhm.
word, love the
Mhm.
music and all, but they still walking out that door in a dark place.
That's right. That's right.
So I thank God the churches are now embracing
Right.
mental illness.
Yes, I think that's a great thing.
Mhm.
And I think I speak for all three of us when we say if you are even thinking that there is something mentally that you're dealing with, go see a therapist, go see a counselor, go and get some help. I have enjoyed talking to you both. Martha from the Lighthouse, which is right here in Lynchburg City, and we also have Ms. Ramey as well, who's a counselor and deals with this type of stuff every single day. We appreciate you for coming, listening and seeing Keisha and Company, and we will see you next time. But until then, please make sure that we're empowering you to live your best life now.